Batavia down. Is more, lots more.
Quiet in the court. What is my background doing? That is not what we have here for What's Trainwreck Watching. Breaking down Season 2, Episode 7 of House of the Dragon, brought to you by Batavia Downs, the most magical place in all the realm, and most certainly the premier entertainment destination in Western New York. Get to Batavia Downs, where it all happens. Let's get him in here. We are missing from the records Lord Micah the Warm, but we have Lord Dunny the Brave and Lord Parthy the Wise. I am the host that was promised, Maniac. Gents, a monster episode. Big developments. I will say my initial knee-jerk reaction was that I was let down, but the longer I get away from last night's episode, the Red Sowing, I'm realizing that we just saw some major implications here in the battle of Team Green versus Team White. That was as big as a battle, essentially, if not 2 or 3.
Yeah, and something I loved about last night's episode, and just something I've been loving about this series, is the watching of television like it used to be. So watching every Sunday night. And then the way this episode started based on how the last episode ended, it was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing every week at this time. This is right where we left off, and it's right where we're picking up. And it was an awesome scene of basically an old Western standoff, but instead it was instead of
Plastic.
Yeah, instead of a handgun, it was 2 dragons standing behind the 2 fighters. So last night's episode was awesome. I thought it set the scene very well for whatever's to come next week, and just happy to be here again.
Speaking of Batavia Downs, I would say that the odds makers are favoring Team Black just a little bit more after this episode, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
for sure. Oh, this is a big odds shifter, no doubt about it. With that said, so obviously let's jump into it. We have our Western standoff. This is amazing because this was classic. Like, Rhaenyra's showing up, has no idea what's going on. We, as you know, the viewer, know that Adam is just kind of like this happy-go-lucky guy who has, like, you know, nothing really going for him. As you know, he's a step above a peasant. He's a shipwright. You know, he's working, he has a good position, obviously, but all of a sudden he's in the back of the dragon, no clue. I think it's good they didn't explain how they ended up in that situation, because it seems a little crazy and contrived, because it looked amazing, cinematography. And then, yeah, it's like his language was great. I promise I made no plan of it. Like, you know, like things like that. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was great. With that said, were you surprised by how Rhaenyra acted? Were you surprised by how Adam acted? Like, I thought this was a hilarious scene with the standoff.
I like how she just like initially had to jump to conclusions, because like obviously that was the right thing to do, but just screaming like, what do you want? And then her just being so thrown off by him just bending the knee immediately.
So sometimes when you've taken so many L's, I mean, we talk about Allison, Rhaenyra's been on, you know, her game log doesn't look amazing either, for sure. But like sometimes when you've taken so many L's, you get a big W, you don't even know what it feels like. You don't know how to act. That was exactly how she was.
Well, she didn't think this was possible, and all of a sudden, some guy with black hair, mind you, that her own kids have black hair and still are the blood of the dragon. And we'll get to that little issue that's being discussed later in the episode. But yeah, she was pretty taken aback that someone not only claimed a dragon, but was immediately loyal to her. Like she suspected, am I being set up here or something? But the other curious thing was Adam not revealing his parentage, or what he long has known what his parentage is. Obviously, Corlys and the Valyrians are of salt and the sea and not fire and blood. But there is some distant lineage with the blood of old Valyria between the Valyrians and the Targaryens. But I'm not so sure. Like, does Adam have to have some sort of a direct Targaryen lineage in order to be able to be a dragon rider, or is it the blood of old Valyria that these dragons are sensing?
Old Valyria for sure. Laenor Velaryon didn't have Targaryen blood; he had the Valyrian blood. So like, you know, if you got Valyrian, you got it going on for sure. That's the DNA in that aspect of it. I thought it was cool that Adam. I don't know if it was so much him trying to make his own way. I think it was almost like 50% like, I'm standing on my own name, Adam of Hull. By the way, so like, is this like, so you're born in like the ship areas, like you're a hull of a ship, like when you're like a snow or like a rivers, like that's hysterical. But you got Adam of Hull. But also I thought it was kind of cool. Like he wanted to kind of like start his own identity. Like he wasn't going like my dad is that or whatever, But also in the Game of Thrones, you tell someone like Corlys Velaryon, you're the bastard son of Corlys Velaryon or whatever, like nobody knows that. He doesn't publicize that. That's
Maybe
something that can
simply,
get you that's something that can get you questioned and get you killed for sure in Westeros.
maybe it's simply he doesn't want to presume that Corlys wants people to know that just yet.
Yeah. And later in the
show's saving it
episode,
for a big reveal.
yeah, and later in the episode when Corlys and Adam kind of, Adam kind of have their moment, maybe it was more clear then that he could have said something, but obviously that conversation hadn't happened yet. It was a little weird that there wasn't, like, does Adam presumably know that Corlys is the Hand at that point, or would he not have known that at the beach at that time?
I don't think he knows it at the
Corlys have
beach.
been wearing his hand thing.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
might have been wearing it, but yeah. So the whole thing, and then the dynamic with them in the room at Dragonstone is funny. And then Corlys visits Alan, obviously, who we've been really exposed to this season. Adam is kind of like the supporting character of Alan. And Alan, basically, like, in case you didn't see where this is going, it's the perfect dynamic to Bela being like, no, like, I'm blood and fire, like, not like salt and sea. And then Alan's like, nope, I'm salt and sea. No, thanks. Like, I don't need a dragon. That was pretty fucking funny. Almost too poetic, almost a little too over the top, but then you have dumbasses like me who miss shit all the time. So I think it was kind of necessary and well done.
I liked that. No, it was good.
Yeah, it was a nice little moment in Dragonstone between father and son, even if they couldn't acknowledge it. Corlys, I think, is secretly a little proud of Adam. He can't, fully express that. It's a start for them. If Adam feels any kind of resentment toward, and of course he has to understand why Corlys can't just come out and be his father, acknowledge it even privately. But it's a nice little start for their relationship personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yes, that's a nice scenes. Yes, wanted to outright say it. Probably will have some big scene next week where I would assume Alan will be like named the heir, or like will be put in a position where he's basically on that trajectory for sure. So we transfer over to King's Landing, where someone's got to pay a price because there was a riot involving the Queen Dowager and the Queen last week. So those Kingsguard fools and Lickspittles. Is Lickspittle like basically like cocksucker?
Basically kiss ass. You basically kiss the boss's ass.
Yeah, Lickspittle. Yeah, so basically dismiss him. That was pretty funny. The scene going in the background. Obviously, though, Game of Thrones Westeros style, the real thing going on there was Larys, Lord Jasper, talking about the Westeros telephone I have written down here. He heard it from a gold cloak, who heard it from a fisherman, who heard it from a merchant, who heard it from a brothel. Yeah, I thought this was hilarious because it ended up being true that there was a new rider for Sea Smoke. And then later in the episode, we see when Rhaenyra is getting her word into the dragon seeds, we see that it's exactly that transfer of information to get like the word to in and out of King's Landing. So we kind of we've seen this all season, that the Greens kind of don't really get what's happening under their own noses with the peasants. They're kind of like out of left field. It's very much like Cersei Lannister not understanding why the peasants were pissed or whatever. But a little bit maybe the council too much at play, too much at war or whatever. But what do you guys think of this kind of Game of Thrones-esque scene and kind of seeing all the different dynamics at play?
I liked how it came full circle to the point where at the end of, or I guess not the very end, but towards the end of the episode, when there is a dragon flying through King's Landing, Larys kind of looks across the table and they're both just staring at each other like, so there is a rider for Sea Smoke. Little do they know it's a completely different dragon. But no, the rumor mill was awesome because they're basically trying to depict if it was even possible that this could be true, going through that many avenues. And like you said,
some good lore being revealed. Like I think we didn't know about what was it, Rhaenyra and Sea Smoke had been tried to be bonded when she was 14 basically.
Yeah.
So it was funny that Larys and Lord Jasper were basically fighting to see who would deliver this supposedly bad news. It wasn't even news at that point. It was just a rumor of a rumor, of course. But then at the end, where it's proven true, if Aemond got word that one of these guys, knew of such things, why didn't you tell me this earlier? Well, it was a friend of a friend of a friend. We couldn't verify it's, how true it was or whatever. So I hope it doesn't come back to bite him in the ass.
See, that's where I'm a dumbass, because I thought they gave each other a look like, oh, we wish we had given the intel. Like we both wish we had given the intel, since it might end up being true. But you're right. It's more they both looked at each other like, you better not turn me in for like not like bringing it to Aemond's attention for what's about to happen. So that was awesome. Obviously, that's what happens. Sometimes you have these shows with $200 million dragons, but it's also the social dynamic of just what's happening between the conversations of two people, which is the perfect segue to our next topic, because we finally have something happening in Harrenhal, and it happens in a big way. The River Lords have arrived. So what was it? Grover Tully passed away. Long did he reign, or whatever they say. Thanks to Alice Rivers, potion or whatever. And Oscar has united the River Lords, and he's brought them all in. Daemon has the meeting in the Weirwood, area. Classic, like just trying to win them over. And this was I don't know who said it in the chat, but big Lyanna Mormont energy from Oscar Tully in this scene. Because it was basically the ultimate play of the Game of Thrones. What basically took a situation that sucked, that he inherited, explained it out exactly, said along the way that like, I probably suck at this, but then like appeased everyone, and like the guy they all hated who they have to appease and kind of have to go by, basically like made him have to like undo it as much as possible in the moment as he could have. Like there's really nothing else he could do. But I'm curious what you guys thought of the scene. Did you see it all going along the way? Were there any particular moments that stood out? By the way, while Lord Simon Strong was basically like the Migos, like, whoa. Like, like on the sidelines, like while that was happening.
Yeah, this scene was just so good. Just from the first scene we saw of Oscar Tully in this series, like he just could barely even speak to Daemon, didn't know what to call him. He's like, my prince, kind of stumbling on his words, barely could get out of his chair the first time he talks to Daemon. Now he's kind of addressing a whole army, addressing Daemon, addressing other people who are around. It's basically like when a rookie kind of is behind someone in a sports game and that person gets injured, they never thought they were going to have to play. They get thrown into it and then, make the game-winning play or do something heroic. I think that's kind of what happened with Oscar Tully here. Yeah,
Oscar stepped up in a big way. You can tell that he's been, taking after the examples of whoever his father and his now late grandfather were, how to speak, how to address people's, concerns, and say, I understand that you're thinking this way, or that you're concerned about this, or you don't like this guy, and just basically acknowledge it. And that's sometimes all people want, is to have their concerns acknowledged, or their feelings, justified in some way. So Oscar played this pretty well. And, the boldness to speak of Daemon, essentially to his face in such, insulting way, I have no love for Daemon. Basically, he's just standing right there. And even Daemon, of course, at one point says, mind your tongue. But, Oscar is just speaking honestly and truly, just like Lady Mormont was at Winterfell in a couple hundred years it'll be. I thought it was somewhat reminiscent of when Daemon employed Blood and Cheese to go try and find Aemond, and of course they went into business for themselves. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. That was left a little open ended. But in this case, where Daemon had employed what was the guy's name that they ended up executing? The Bracken or Blackwood? Was it?
Yeah,
it was Blackwood, right?
Yep.
So basically, it was another time where Daemon had employed someone else to basically be his dispenser of his own type of justice, and it went a little bit farther than maybe he'd expected or wanted. But this time, he basically got to do a make right for the people that he ended up wronging. So, and of course, this is his one chance to get the River Lords on his side. So as soon as it's proposed by Oscar, he just takes it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Oscar totally realized he had the mic, like, for a second, and now going forward, I mean, are you kidding me? Like a season 3, like war camp. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, maybe they all get obliterated next episode and that's the end of the series. But like a season 3 war camp episode where like Oscar Tully like walks in and like Daemon kind of has to be like a little sheepish, like when we've never seen like anyone be sheepish because he kind of took him to the woodshed here, basically called him a scumbag multiple times, like, you know, said like he's done things to Demia's position, doesn't even deserve our honor. Like I'm not even reaching very far on these quotes, like from what I'm saying, essentially is what he was saying. But then, yeah, I ended up doing what he did. And then the calculus, I watched a couple reviews or whatever, but someone was saying the calculus that it took Daemon to decide to take Willem Blackwood's head when he realized he was going to get a whole army and out of Harrenhal in exchange was like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, listen,
That
keep
was
in
so
mind, Daemon
funny.
said he doesn't care if they love him or not. He just wants their swords. So Oscar can really talk all the shit he wants as long as he's pledging his fealty to him along with the River Lords. You know, Daemon says, hey, say whatever you want. Just fight for me. Make sure you fight for me when the time comes.
Yes. And then obviously real quick before we get into the big part of what happens in this episode. Oh, actually, no, we got to get into the big part of what happens in this episode, obviously. And that is the sowing of the dragon seeds. So obviously this was kind of planted, the last 2 to 3 episodes, big time. First, it was going to be, we're going to look into who could potentially, you know, be the bloodline. Now, the big thing in this episode was that we're going to go to like any Targaryen bastard that's out there, essentially. Now, big storyline becomes, Jace being kind of taken aback because, you know, he's a bastard and he kind of knows it. And that was a powerful scene with the strong, Rhaenyra, Lord Strong. Let's see. I think I got one pulled up. But what did you think of that interaction? One of the biggest, basically, between Rhaenyra and Jace this season since the opener of the season?
Yeah, probably their biggest interaction. And it's tough because I think last week we were talking about it, right? We were like, Jace is on track to do something legendary because, you know, he keeps having to deal with these awkward family situation. He's kind of getting overlooked by his mother, who's also his queen. And then, you know, he has this where he just kind of has a breaking point. And he's like, look, when, you know, he's basically saying like, once everyone becomes special, then what are we? Because if we're just letting anyone ride these things, I don't have the silver hair. I don't have the lineage. I don't have the last name. He's questioning whether he actually is the heir to the throne or not. And he, you know, obviously has a legit beef. He has a legit gripe to have there. But I'm caught wondering, is this just who Jace is? I thought after episode 1, oh, this is a guy who's going to do something badass before the season ends. And we have 1 episode left and he still hasn't. So either a big episode 8 for Jace or maybe this just is who he is.
Well, Jace, didn't he go to the twins and negotiate, passage through there if Daemon was able to raise the River Lords essentially?
Well,
he did do a little bit
to jump ahead because we'll talk the finale in a bit. But in the finale, you do see the Stark army, the gray beards coming through the twins. So that's pretty big.
Yeah. So
what do you got, Bart?
Initially, I thought, come on, Jace, who are you to, talk about, bastards aren't worthy, look, pot calling the kettle black, but he's aware of that. And what I'm now understanding is he's saying, well, officially I'm supposed to be Laenor's son, but everybody knows I'm not. So anybody that could come along and say, I have Targaryen blood and I'm just as much of a bastard as he is, why can't I be, ruling the kingdom? So I guess I see where he's coming from, but at the end of the day, he's still Rhaenyra's son. He's still the named heir. So this was his idea. I guess he just didn't think they were going to be going so far as that his mom was going to be getting so desperate. But remember the very first episode of the first season when young Rhaenyra was being taught by Viserys, without the dragons, we're just like everyone else. The blood of old Valyria may be the small little connection, but besides that, it's not like, they're not truly gods. They're just people that have a small connection to the dragons that the dragons can sense. So anybody that has that connection, whether you're highborn or lowborn or legitimate or a bastard or whatever, you can claim a dragon. And that's the truth that's probably been kept for generations. And Jace is worried about that sort of becoming a common knowledge, that anybody with the blood of old Valyria, whether you're legitimate or not, can just claim a dragon and gain power for yourself. It is kind of scary, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and Rhaenyra knows that as much as she is nervous about this prospect.
Yeah, there's a great episode of the show 24 where Jack Bauer runs out of bullets and he's like literally in the corner. And so he just takes the gun and he's about to throw it at the guy before he actually gets saved in the scene. And that's basically what Rhaenyra is doing right here. I mean, she knows that she can't take on Vhagar alone without melees. So she obviously needs to get some other dragon riders. Obviously, as we were, some ride or dies. So we get the dragon. They're recruited. Great recruitment scene. You know, kind of going through the network of King's Landing. They're brought to Dragonstone. Kind of funny. Like almost like, you know, like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see like if someone did like a college football like / dragon rider like recruiting like crossover, because that's probably very easy to do. But they get to Dragonstone. So the big thing in this sequence is that I guess everyone's kind of balancing like this really shows like Rhaenyra's kind of like dunzo about being like a human and more about like, let's win the war at all costs. Like, I don't care if like 45 people get like just massacred like instantly. What did you think about this scene? And by the way, that was inferred by the fact that when she walks off, like they have the guards like kind of like blocking the walk-off area, like things like that. So what did you think of this whole sequence kind of leading up to like the cinematic dragging, you know, roasting of it all?
So one of my favorite parts is I think they have a real title. I'm just gonna refer to them as the Dragon Whisperers right now. But I kind of loved how just right away
the trainers,
like,
yep.
yeah, they're just like, fuck this, like we're not doing it, because you saw in the previous episode where their ritual is so sacred and they, you know, they all get so into it, and then they saw what happened when they tried to do this to you know, someone who may have had Targaryen blood last time, and they were like, you spit in our face last time, like we're out. I loved that part of the scene. I also liked how as soon as she started talking to all the bastards, she kind of had her guard walking closely behind her, and she just had to like take a pause for a second, like put the hand out and was like, I got this, like let me talk to these people like human to human right now. And then basically was like, there's a chance that all of you guys die and don't make it out of this. I need you guys to know that.
Yeah, I think she still has a very human part of her, and she knows the big risk that everybody's taken being here. But of course, when you're the lowest of the lowborn, you got not much left to lose. And I think she recognizes that, but she wants everybody to realize what a big risk they're still taking. It's not just dying, it's dying a horrible death, either by fire or being eaten alive, or possibly both, as we actually saw with someone later. But yeah, I think she realizes the weight of what she's asking of all these people. And yeah, it was a nice little motivational speech. Hey, you know, this could be it for you, or it could be everything that you ever wanted. So I liked her little speech as far as trying to inspire these small focus to possibly tame one of these dragons.
And we've had Hugh being built up all season. His family's in poverty, you know, basically like living day to day. His daughter's sick or whatever. And he has a big diatribe, but not just when he's talking about, you know, his lineage and, you know, where he thinks he came from. But, you know, the way that these dragon lords are looked at is it's like, you know, you instantly become your own almost king, like within the realm, if you could ride a dragon. So very cool.
How about
see the lore, build those out.
What we learned about Hugh in the scene in King's Landing before this, we learned that
he's technically brother.
His daughter had passed away off screen. We didn't see that. We just thought she was sick last time we saw her. But then, of course, learning who his mother was, and that she was an aunt to Viserys and Daemon. Like, that was a pretty strong connection. We didn't know how he was connected. We just knew that he had Targaryen blood before.
Yeah, so he's technically cousins with Daemon, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, by the way, the daughter dying off screen, with all due respect to her, Parthy, that was the equivalent of when Asuka dropped the title to Charlotte Flair right before WrestleMania, so they could make it a three-way for the title between her, Ronda Rousey, and Becky Lynch. We needed Hugh to have nothing to lose by going to Dragonstone, so he could face off against her. He's not going to do that if he has a daughter. He's going to be cowering behind a corner trying to survive, so he can go back to his daughter. Like, you know what I mean? He kind of had a reckless abandon about him. No, I'm not saying I'm just realizing that.
I could also see him still having her and wanting to give her care so desperately, and wanting to give her the quality care that she needs, and then he goes to Dragonstone to get the dragon so he can have, some modicum of power and possibly employ Rhaenyra's maesters in order to help his daughter, bring her after he claims a dragon. But I see where you're coming from.
I also
No, absolutely.
think they just do a really good job in House of Dragon and, making it different from Game of Thrones, just how everyone person to person in the show like thinks of the dragons differently. Like in House of Dragon, they do such a good job of showing like, oh, these are gods. Like it would be such an opportunity, and I'd be forever grateful to even have the opportunity to maybe ride a dragon. Whereas in Game of Thrones, we just saw how different everyone thought of a dragon. It was so much more unknown. It was so much more scary. Where this is like, yeah, I'll take a shot at that. Like this is, a huge opportunity. And I just think, especially the last couple episodes, they did a really good job with that.
So I don't know if you guys saw it as well, but when Rhaenyra touched Vermithor, she kind of like, once they touched the own their eyes, she had like the ultimate like swag, like LeBron look from like, unfortunately Dunny against your Celtics in game 6 that one time. But apparently Hugh had the same look after he touched Vermithor. Like he's kind of like jacked up and like ready to go or whatever. Obviously we saw Ulf driving with his car, through the old neighborhood. That was unbelievable dynamic.
Looks like Aegon a little bit.
100%. Who's feeling cooler right now? Ulf, who got Vermithor, or sorry, Hugh, who got Vermithor, or Ulf, who was actually a little nervous at the last second that he wasn't really Targaryen?
Ooh, I would say Hugh is probably feeling cooler, if that's what we're going to use, just because he almost kind of like dominated his way onto his dragon, just like screaming at it right after he had just saw all the horror. Where Ulf
That's the thing. I think Hugh dominated where Ulf got lucky.
Yeah, I mean, Ulf had closed his eyes and was ready for death. That was one of my favorite scenes of the episode. He had like almost like a little smirk on. It was like, all right, just get this over with. Like, flame me real quick. And he like slowly opens his eyes, and now he has a dragon. I would say Hugh went about it the cooler way, though.
Well, I think Hugh definitely went about it the more badass way, where he was staring down death in the face, and the dragon basically respected him for it. But so I would say Ulf is actually feeling cooler because he just thinks he won the lottery, not unlike Adam, who they both thought they were about to be roasted alive. They both thought they were about to be barbecued. And all of a sudden, wait, you actually like me? Wait, you actually want me to ride on you? I get to drive this cool sports car with a flamethrower at the end of it all around. I think Ulf is feeling a lot cooler than he thought he was going to end up being. He was basically just doing what he has to do, and he's just, looking death in the eye and, oh, actually I get to live. Okay, this is nice. But Ulf is like, woohoo, this is the most awesome feeling ever. He didn't think he was going to end up, not only just claiming a dragon, but riding around King's Landing.
I was going to say through King's Landing, no less too. Like he doesn't even know that like they're prepping to take him down.
Ulf is that guy doing donuts in his old work parking lot after he won the lottery, like giving him a middle finger, shit like that. By the way, great take from Lando Calrissian Experience. Rhaenyra diluting the product like Stringer on the Wire. That is hysterical. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, X, everybody. But yes, so we get to the finale. So obviously, Rhaenyra now, so it's almost like, a record label, right? Like Rhaenyra Records Targaryen Records brought these guys up now. They've made them stars. They made them drag riders. Looks like in the next episode, they're kind of bringing them to the table to kind of be like, okay, now that we've done this, like you got to do for me, like what I did for you. Like we got to like make sure we take them out. Is that where you think they're at? Or are they going to be like pledged to her no matter what?
I would say these two in particular, Hugh and Ulf, are probably pledged to her no matter what. I think they probably are feeling just like super grateful and powerful on the backs of these dragons. And they know that, although they did a little bit of the groundwork just having, the Targaryen blood, and thought they were called upon and they made the journey. But I think, they'll have their alliance in the right spot. And I think they'll just do whatever Rhaenyra asks.
I think Hugh in particular is, he's already probably grateful for the care packages that were sent from Dragonstone to at least attempt to help his family. Never mind the fact that now he gets to claim a dragon, as well as Ulf. Ulf is probably just, unbelieving of his opportunity. He was probably grateful not just for this opportunity, but for a possible, queen or king that actually gives a darn about the small folk and the plight of everybody in King's Landing. So he probably already went to Dragonstone thinking, you know what, regardless of what happens, this is my queen here.
Ulf's, speaking of being grateful, Ulf should be grateful for his friends. He might have some of the best friends in the entire realm.
Oh,
The
they
way
were
they're
gassing
hyping
him up
at
big
the
time.
bar.
He was about to be staying at the pub at 2 for Tuesdays, and now he's got a damn dragon. He better come back and give the whole crew a ride.
Before he had done shit, they were calling him Ulf the Dragon Rider.
Yeah, they were literally like hailing him. He was king in that pub. He was a dragon rider in that pub before he left, for sure. Yeah, and this is a great
You
meme.
could
Obviously,
probably
when you
tell
lie on your resume,
we're hoping this would happen so that they could have, they could ask for a ride in his dragon or something like that. Hey, you just got this cool car. Can I take a ride in this? Probably not going to happen like that. But speaking of the finale, when Aemond gets on Vhagar, he pursues Sea Smoke all the way to Dragonstone, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, this is going to be harder than I thought, and he turns tail. Was Rhaenyra hoping that Vhagar would go all the way to Dragonstone, and was she setting a trap, or was she just sending a message, essentially?
That's tough.
I wouldn't be surprised if when we look back at it, like that they were all on the same page about what was going to happen. Ulf immediately went with Silverwing, said, what would you have me do? She goes like, oh, you're from like King's Landing? Like go there for 30 seconds and fly right back. Like that you might get pursued by Vhagar, like, but no more than 30 seconds, like no matter what. Like, and that was basically like, if she told him that, then she gave him the perfect battle plan, because that was just enough time for, Aemond to like kind of go Legolas jumping around on his horse and onto his dragon. But that was, I think we'll see that was planned by Rhaenyra, because it seemed all kind of hyper random. That scene and it kind of disoriented me. I told you the ending fell flat. It's because it disoriented me. When Aemond was flying towards Rhaenyra, I couldn't see any of the dragons or Rhaenyra on the island. So the whole scene,
with you.
like with him being like, no, Vhagar, like flee. Like it was kind of like lost on me because I couldn't see him. Like if I saw like maybe like fire flames like going around like Rhaenyra, like like she's in a rock concert. Like, okay, now that scene fucked with me. But that's why that scene kind of felt weird to me. I'm watching it back now and I appreciate it a lot more.
They were waiting for the reveal at the very last frame.
That's true, and it's a delicate balance, right? Because you don't want to be completely obvious that they're there because they were kind of a trap, but at the same time, you want to reveal them. But did that fall similarly for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely, it did. And even though I've looked at maps and I've watched Game of Thrones and obviously House of Dragon to this point too, it was still shocking to me how close Dragonstone was to King's Landing. I don't know why, just like that scene made me realize that, but I am with you. When he first started saying no to Vhagar, I was curious, maybe was something coming over his conscious, the first one. And then obviously I saw that he saw something was afoot and something was up. Also, just, want to give another shout out to House of Dragon here and stuff they do well. Even when you're not seeing Vhagar compare to another dragon in the same shot, it's so cool, like how good of a job they do just making Vhagar look as big as it is when it's on the screen. Like you go from seeing Sea Smoke or any of the other dragons, and then Vhagar comes on screen, and you're like, "Holy shit! Yeah, that one is bigger than the rest."
All the other riders literally look like kind of like humps on their dragon. And then when Aemon's on, Vhagar, he's basically like, he gets lost. He's almost like camouflaged in the middle. You got to squint to find for sure. Yeah, but sick shot here. What did you think of this moment, Parthy? Yeah, no, I didn't want to cut you off.
Well, that's iconic. I mean, that's meme worthy. Where
is it just you and me?
Something like that.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I lagged out. Go ahead, Parthy.
It's basically Dragon Seers Assemble, which I wanted to touch on this. For those of us who are familiar with the lore of the Song of Ice and Fire and the book Fire and Blood specifically, one Dragon Seed is noticeably absent as far as any personal appearances, but there may be a reason for that. I think there's a character that's supposed to be a substitute for her, if I can say that. Rhaena is with Rhaenyra's sons Viserys and Aegon in the Eyrie, and they're departing the Eyrie for Pentos. And Rhaena knows about this dragon that's supposedly flying around the Vale, and she's, going off on her own path to try and track it down. And I think, I mean, Rhaenyra's not a dragon seed. She's literally the blood of the dragon. She's a legitimate blood of the dragon. But I think she's going to be the last component as far as assembling all these dragons and these Targaryen bastards to get together.
Yeah, and not to mention, we added to the Rhaenyra Dragon Lord this episode, like we were talking about earlier with Larys and Lord Jasper, talking about how she tried to get Sea Smoke when she was 14. So it'll only build and only go towards more momentum there. But yeah, great scene. Obviously, now this is growing very badass. One of the more badass moments in all of, Westeros, Game of Thrones. With that said, real quick, so now we've all watched the finale trailer. Seems like we're going to have armies mobilizing. Are we going to get a big battle scene, it seems? Or maybe 2 or 3 smaller ones?
It would be tough for me to think that there's just going to be one big battle scene just because of how much they revealed in that trailer. It seems like stuff's going on all over the map with, all the different characters, which is probably what you want in a finale, right? Like everyone, don't leave anything out basically. And it looks like we have a lot of that. Cole's quote
down
at the
bad.
beginning.
Down
yeah,
bad.
but his quote was dragons dancing above, and it's just ashes at the men's feet under or below. Or I'm butchering it, but it was pretty powerful, and we didn't see or hear anything from Cole in last night's
We didn't see
episode,
anything
really.
from him last night, and then in the preview for next week's, Sir Gawain has a sword to his face, basically.
Yeah,
You think he spills the beans?
I don't know.
Spills the beans on what particular?
Spills the beans on the fact that he's been plugging Gawain's sister.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Is there anything else? Is there anything else that he could tell him that would get him upset? Really?
It's
Kristen Cole. There's a bunch of ways he can get people upset.
He can definitely get him upset, but we're talking sword to throat part. He has it fully extended at his face.
Mm-hmm. Does
But
Gwen
I know you
Cole
also
knew
kind of know
about
some stories. So we got to be careful.
Well, hearing that the Kristen Cole and the Royal Army are marching is very telling to me, at least. I think we're in for a big event, not necessarily a battle, mind you, but a turning point.
Okay.
He also said they're marching towards their annihilation as well, which is interesting.
Well, I'm assuming they're going to be marching towards Daemon and Harrenhal and having to face his dragon. And that's what Cole is talking about. The dragons are dancing above us and we're just going to be ashes below them. And that's what he's probably expecting once they get there.
We got big things happening. Team Green, Team Black, obviously, as we're going towards the finish line of season 2. One thing that caught me off guard about the trailer, and we'll leave them on this note, I saw ships, and then I think I saw Lannister getting thrown in the mud by a Triarchy person.
I was wondering if that was a Lannister as well.
I'm pretty sure it's a Lannister because I can only make out that he's got great teeth. He's covered in fucking mud. But
snippet.
I think we're gonna see a ominous third party added to this dance to kind of spice it up, because this season did go kind of black Team Black versus Team Green heavy.
Allison also back in King's Landing in the trailer as well.
Yeah.
Okay. She came back. We didn't mention her cleansing ritual. Basically,
yeah. Raise your hand if you thought she was going under.
No, I thought she was personally going to either find her father or her son at Old Town, but she just went to find some peace and quiet and tried to, cleanse herself of her transgressions and sins and all the L's she's been taking lately.
Seriously, Ellison Hightower. But don't take any L's following along with what's Trainwreck watching. House of Dragon. Real quick, not even House of Dragon related. Have either of you guys seen Deadpool or Deadpool Wolverine yet?
I'm going to see it tomorrow night.
Okay, I think I'm going to see it tomorrow night as well. So let's link up for something midweek or later week to catch up on it. Talk about our feelings there, because obviously a lot happening in the MCU side of things the last couple of days. A lot to catch up on. Always good catching up with you guys. Shout out to Lord Parthy the Wise and, of course, Lord Dunny the Brave. Shout out to make sure you're following along on all the platforms. But for now, whether you're Team Green or Team Black, with one episode to go in season 2, we wish you good fortune in the wars to come. Good dragons now. Great.